Good afternoon, and welcome to Raw to Radiant with host and nutritional consultant Kim Cohen. Discover how truly raw foods support a life of radiant health and vitality. Now here's your host, Kim Cohen.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Raw to Radiant. The purpose of this show is to discuss how nutritional deficiencies and environmental toxins, including toxins created from cooked foods, contribute to the modern-day diseases we know of today, and how incorporating raw foods into your diet can support a life of health and wellness, free of disease. I'm your host, Kim Cohen, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Aajonus Vonderplanitz with me today. Dr. Vonderplanitz has a PhD in nutrition and cured himself of blood, bone, and stomach cancers, as well as developmental autism, diabetes, bursitis, psoriasis, and angina, all of which he had developed by the age of 20 years old. If you've listened to my show before, you've heard me reference Dr. Vonderplanitz numerous times, as he is truly one of the only modern-day nutritional scientists that has actually studied how a raw diet, including raw meats and raw dairy products, leads to a life of health and vitality. Dr. Vonderplanitz also wrote the expert report that reversed a 38-year ban on raw dairy in the state of California. Dr. Vonderplanitz, are you there?
I am here, Kim.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the show. I first want to apologize to you, as I listed the Primal Diet as the Primal Raw Diet on my promotional e-cards that I sent out. But you actually call this way of eating the Primal Diet, and I sometimes slip the word raw in there to make sure that it's really clear to people that this is a raw diet. So my apologies to you.
Okay, no problem. It's just that people are searching for it. They may not be able to find that particular name.
Exactly.
Primal Diet is how it's referred, and that's what's on the cover of one of my books.
Well, thank you for correcting that for me.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, you were a very sick child and teen growing up. Can you briefly tell our listeners about how this inspired you to do what you're doing today?
Well, at 20 years old, I had started off with stomach ulcer. That the treatment for that led to a tumor growing alongside the ulcer. And then the treatment for that, which was surgery, led to the cancer spreading from the stomach. And then they irradiated my stomach area, abdominal region, to thwart the metastasis. And that gave me blood and bone cancer because it cauterized my spine. So then they, of course, suggested chemotherapy. And then the chemotherapy gave me lymphoma, which is lymph cancer. So they left me for dead. Well, they still said they wanted me to continue to take the chemotherapy, even though there was a 1% chance of living, and after 3 months, and I was basically an invalid by that time, crawling on the floor like a worm, and I couldn't even sit on a pan, so I was going all over a hardwood floor, urinating, defecating, and I was at my end, and I was dying, and while I was dying, I had to busy myself, my mind, because I was in so much pain and agony and humiliation. So I spent time, basically I was autistic at that time, too, as a child, developmental autism from a vaccine that I had received at 18 months old, and the mercury and aluminum and formaldehyde had gone to my communication center. And one of the volunteers at the hospice, I refused to go to the hospice because I was autistic and nobody understood me, so I wasn't going to be humiliated in my last, a few weeks or days. And one of the volunteers was a young 18-year-old fellow who got me into drinking carrot juice. And when I started drinking carrot juice, about after 10 days, my autism switched off, or I should say my communication center switched on. So I was able to communicate, so then I was able to do other things, and that was read for the first time, because I was unable to read my entire life. So being able to read was a joy. So I went and in a wheelchair. That young man took me to and I was only 20. He took me to a bookstore, and I got quite a few books on nutrition and began studying nutrition, expecting to die, but I thought, I would just investigate and see what was offered in the avenue of nutrition based on the changing of my brain from just eating carrot juice, raw carrot juice. So that's how I got into that.
And did you immediately feel that maybe you needed to go the vegetarian or vegan way? I mean, you would drink carrot juice, and a lot of times when you read these books on health and nutrition, it's about adding vegetables and fruits and cutting out meats and dairies and wheat and those sort of things.
No, the young man about whom I was speaking, he wasn't into vegetarianism, and I can't say that he was really into raw foods. He was into eating fresh fruits and vegetables, but he was drinking pasteurized dairy and eating other cooked foods. But it just included vitamins. The fruit and vegetables. Mm-hmm. So I was not introduced to vegetarianism. I didn't even know vegetarianism existed. Mm-hmm. With my autism, I had very little communication with anything other than my daily experience. And that was pretty white bread America. Donuts,
so
soda popping.
During your experimentation on nutrition, did you try different diets, such as vegetarian, vegan, macrobiotic?
Yes, I got into those probably about in 72 is when I decided to go completely raw. And in 1972, let me place this. First, I had my ulcer in 67 and had the operation in 67. And it metastasized by February, before my 21st birthday. So I underwent all of that problem, even before I was 21. So this was in 1967. And in 1972, after studying all that I had, I began to think about eating mainly raw vegetables and fruits. I had stopped eating meat anyway because after the vagotomy pyloroplasty, which was stomach cancer, it rendered me unable to digest meats cooked at all. If I ate a steak, which I used to love, well done, it would come out my skin everywhere from my scalp to my knees, and big, huge pustulations. And if you saw that movie Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey, remember that one? Employee that's there at the firm has this big pussy blister on the end of his nose. Well, that was what I looked like all over.
Oh, dear.
So I was very deathly afraid to eat any kind of meat. And considering it raw was, not even a question, because after the vagotomy pyloroplasty, they rendered me unable to produce hydrochloric acid in the stomach. So that put me in the class of octogenarians, people who were unable to produce hydrochloric acid for meat digestion. So they always said to me, and they continue to say it, without that hydrochloric acid, you're in danger of death from bacterial and parasitical invasion from food. Mm-hmm. So you have to eat everything well cooked. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was told.
So I know we're going to focus on raw dairy today, but you obviously did a lot of research and found out that raw meats, raw eggs, raw dairy products, that all of these are actually health-giving.
Yes.
And how is it that you discovered the importance of raw dairy specifically?
Well, in 1971, I met a man who ran a health food store who had, he was in his, I think it was his third year of internship, studying to be an MD, and he realized this was all garbage, and that the pharmaceutical industry ran the medical profession and gave it up, and he worked with diets and nutrition. He was also focused on vitamin supplements and enzyme supplements and mineral supplements, all kinds of supplements, not as the main part of the diet, but as an adjunct. And he, when we met, he was heavy into raw dairy. Not the raw butter or the raw cream so much. He did utilize those, but lots of raw milk.
And when you say raw, you mean unpasteurized milk?
Correct, unpasteurized milk. That means it hasn't gone above a cow's body temperature, which is at most, unless they're in a fever, 105 degrees.
Can you quickly tell us the difference, because we see the word pasteurized and homogenized, what the difference is between those two things?
Well, pasteurization is a heat process. When pasteurization first began, it was 141 degrees, cooking at 141 degrees for anywhere from 15 seconds to a minute, minute and a half. Now it's gone up. They're up into, the 170 degrees now because there's a longer shelf life. And that's what it's all about. It's about shelf life. It's about their profits. It has nothing to do with our health. Homogenization is where they take the milk and mainly the cream, and they put it through a very fine sieve and force press it through so it splits the fat molecule. And the fat molecule absorbs all the other milk solids so that the cream does not separate at the top as in regular milk. The cream will separate to the top. Mm-hmm. And homogenize, it does not do that. Mm-hmm. When they fractionate when they split the fat molecule like that and absorbs those proteins and all the other milk solids, it is not well digested.
Okay, and so obviously we're getting a lot of mixed messages in the media. The media is saying, oh, well, drink your milk because it gives you strong bones and we need the calcium, but all of that milk is pasteurized. Yeah. And then the vegetarians and the vegans are saying, well, how come humans are the only species that drink milk? And milk builds mucus in the body and it clogs up the GI system. Can you talk a little bit about that, those two things, the messages that we're receiving?
Well, you have to understand the messages are coming from the food industry. The food industry wants pasteurization. Just to give you an example, so everybody will have a historic picture of late, because we're talking about 1928 when pasteurization started being utilized frequently, and it was about 1947 that it was outlawed in most states, raw milk. So it's been a long time. However, if everyone will notice that just 2 years ago, all raw juice was outlawed when it was pre-prepared. So you cannot go into a health food store or grocery store and buy a pre-juiced bottle of juice of any kind unless it's pasteurized. Mm-hmm. You can buy it at a juice bar, fresh juice that's unpasteurized. But anything that's pre-made has to be pasteurized. Now, this is all was used on one event, and that was a young girl claiming to have been, the girl wasn't claiming, for she died, a 5 or 6-year-old girl, died, and the medical profession, or her doctor, told her that it was because she had consumed raw juice, and E. coli had damaged her intestines and her kidneys, and that killed her. So, I guess we're going to go into a break.
Let's take a real quick break, and we'll finish that thought. We're going to take a real quick 2-minute break here, and we'll be right back with Dr. Vonderplanitz talking about the health benefits of raw dairy.
You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
RawToRadiant.com is the ultimate source of information on raw foods, health, and wellness. Here you will find the latest articles on how both cooked and raw foods affect our well-being. Browse the store to shop for everything you need to transition life-giving raw foods into your current diet and lifestyle. Find books, CDs, juicers, blenders, raw living minerals, raw foods, and amazing skincare products. Make sure to check the calendar of events for Kim's schedule of lectures and workshops. Raw to Radiant. Raw foods to radiant health.
All right, your 4-year-old son ready for the big leagues. Put your pad on, buddy. Here you go, helmet. Okay, that's right, your thigh guards. Now don't forget your mouth guard. You don't want to be losing teeth in your first game. Well, they're baby teeth, but put it in.
Daddy.
Don't let them worry you. They may be over 200 pounds and kind of mean looking, but you're ready for them. Just run through them. Here's the ball. Run!
Daddy?
Don't look at me. Run with it. Go, boy, run!
But I could get hurt.
No pain, no gain. Now run! Come
on.
You wouldn't treat your child like an adult, so why put them in adult seatbelts? If they're under 4'9", they need a booster seat.
You should have straight-armed them.
For more information, go to boosterseat.gov. This message brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Department of Transportation.
Are you willing to be taught? And invest a few minutes each week to learn principles that will ensure your success and fulfillment? Tune in every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to It's Easier Done Than Said on the Voice America Women's Channel.
Inner Health Through Homeopathy, hosted by Melissa Birch, CCH, with Dr. Tim Stryker. This show features a weekly discussion about homeopathy, a holistic approach to healthcare which treats ailments by bringing the entire body into balance. Homeopathy encompasses and examines the makeup of the entire person instead of focusing solely on a disease or ailment. The healing process involves physical, mental, and emotional changes which come from a wellness within. Homeopathic remedies go far beyond an alleviation of symptoms. They can restore harmony to the body and open paths to a higher level of awareness. Each week, Melissa Birch, CCH, explores a different health issue and individual healing processes with Tim Stryker, MD. Tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel for Inner Health Through Homeopathy.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You're listening to Raw to Radio with host Kim Cohen. If you have a question for Kim or her guest, call now. Our toll-free number is 1-866-472-5792. That number again is 1-866-472-5792. Now back to Raw to Radio.
Welcome back to Raw to Radiant. I'm your host, Kim Cohen, and today we're talking with Dr. Aajonus Vonderplanitz about the health benefits of raw, unpasteurized dairy. And I apologize, we had to go to a commercial right between a thought there, so if you can go ahead and continue on what you were talking about earlier.
Okay, what I was discussing was the vegetable juices being required to be pasteurized as of 2 years ago. And the issue was brought on just one incidence of death that was blamed on an E. coli 0157H7 that was supposedly brought about from one Adwala juice, apple, or I think it was apple juice. And if an entire batch isn't contaminated, one juice isn't going to be contaminated. It was the most ridiculous thing in the world. And Adwala people, owners, prior to this event, are very loving people, and they had they didn't know. They don't know anything about science or the law and the laws of nature with E. coli. So they were completely hoodwinked. And Coca-Cola led the whole issue, and they bought Adwala during that time when Adwala was blamed for that, and the lawsuit was filed against them on the basis of, a few doctors saying that it was that E. coli from the one juice, which is entirely ridiculous and insane. If you've been in a laboratory in chemistry, you know that it's not going to infect just one juice.
Right.
If it's that much bacteria, it's going to get a lot of juices.
And more people would have experienced
Oh,
it.
yes. So,
well, bacteria seems to be the big fear, and, there's so much press around this Andrew Speaker right now, this attorney that supposedly has this rare form of TB, and, he flew
but
on
he
a
doesn't
plane.
have it. He has the antibodies for it.
Right. Well,
he is asymptomatic.
Exactly. So I guess I'm bringing it up because people automatically assume that the reason we started pasteurizing dairy is to make sure that there was no TB in our milk or bacteria in our milk. Is that the reason why it started?
Well, no, that's the way it got the big press and the big governmental push, is to blame TB. Because TB, bovine TB, could be found in milk. However, according to Dr. William Campbell Douglas Jr., MD, who did probably most of the world's research, the best research on dairy, whether it was pasteurized or raw, and showed that humans cannot get bovine tuberculosis or any other kind of tuberculosis, including from drinking it from the milk.
And isn't that because it's species specific?
Correct, and he also experimented with human tuberculosis. Spiking means to introduce the bacteria into the milk. Human, and in raw milk, the TB was destroyed by the lactic acid.
You know, it's really interesting you say that because the farmer that we get our raw dairy from said that he was doing some research, and the only case that he could find that found where a person contracted TB from dairy was in one case, and it was pasteurized dairy.
Pasteurized dairy, correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a falsehood. You have to understand that big money from the food industry and from the pharmaceutical houses push reporters and educated people to believe all of the myths about TB in raw milk and bacteria and disease.
So we don't have to fear bacteria in our dairy. In
Not
fact,
at
we
all.
want it in our dairy, don't
exactly, because University of California, Davis, in Northern California, did some experiments with it and found that in raw milk, the bacteria, the lactic acid, when unpasteurized, will destroy so-called pathogenic bacteria. So they proved that bacteria of the undesirable characteristics cannot live in raw milk. However, they do thrive in pasteurized milk.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You know, everybody wants proof. Everyone wants proof and scientific evidence and documentation. I know that there's a ton
Well,
of
then
proof.
why don't they get it from the medical profession about all the lies about milk? They can't do
Right.
it. In fact, I sent a cease and desist order to the FDA and CDC in December saying that if you distribute the CDC's ridiculous pamphlet based on no scientific evidence whatsoever that raw milk is dangerous, you will be in violation of integrity and our Constitution. So I will probably be filing suit against them when I go to Washington, D.C. in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm. But isn't there proof that pasteurized dairy is bad for us? I mean, we know that it's caused brittle bone disease, osteoporosis, diabetes, and a lot of other different ailments as well, don't we?
Well, you have to understand that the universities are paid by the pharmaceutical industry to do research, to find some incredible, magical cure.
I'm very, very aware. I worked for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world for many years.
And they want a magic bullet that they can spend 2 cents on and sell it for $50. And so them doing any kind of research with food is really an obsolete thing. That was almost stopped completely in 1947. And Mayo Clinic used to do a lot of it. A lot of the raw milk and pasteurized milk experimentations before that, and then it was outlawed. Of course, the pharmaceutical industry had their lobbyists, convince the senators and representatives that really it was harmful. And without any scientific evidence, it was all based on rhetoric, on hypothesis. And that's the same way that the CDC issues their pamphlet. It's not based on fact. Now, to get the law changed in Los Angeles and subsequently California, I did all the research with mainly Dr. Douglas's work on dairies, and a lot of my own research, and put together the report. And he allowed me to use him as the author because he's an MD and has been an MD with the military, the Navy, and he's a very respected doctor.
You have a tremendous amount of medical doctors supporting you in that report. And by the way, if anybody wants to read it, and I highly recommend it, because if you have any doubts in your mind about the health benefits of raw dairy, I guarantee they will be gone once you read this report. It's available on the website raw2radiant.com. On my website, there's a little raw dairy tab on the left. If you click on that, you will see the report that was written by Dr. Vonderplanitz. You were talking about the Mayo Clinic doing some research. There was a Dr. Charles Porter, a medical doctor there.
Yes.
That actually, he has a book that has been put back out in reprint called The Milk Diet as a Remedy for Chronic Disease. And he actually reversed chronic disease in over 20,000 people on a raw milk diet alone. That's all they had was different degrees of raw milk, from kefir to milk to cream and those sort of things.
And butter.
And butters. I mean, that's astonishing. Over 20,000 people. And he reversed diseases like asthma and diabetes and arthritis and all of these modern-day degenerative diseases that we know of.
Well, Hippocrates, he did the same thing with people with asthma and emphysema. He put them on a completely raw milk diet.
That's interesting, because I think the Hippocrates Institute in Florida is now vegan. I don't think they're really there anymore. I'm not sure. But I believe that it is. Do we still have you with us, Aajonus?
Yes, I'm sorry. There's a military helicopter that went over the house and made quite a racket.
There was also a study done by Dr. Pottinger, the cat study. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, he, over a 10-year period, he experimented with 900 cats, feeding them raw meats and cod liver oil and raw substances, and he found that all of those that had cooked and pasteurized foods had all the diseases of man, and all those that just ate the raw meats and dairy and cod liver had no diseases whatsoever, not even dental caries. And those that had the processed as well as cooked foods, those groups had the most extreme diseases. And especially powdered milk and cereals. And that's, what we basically send in care packages to these third world countries. When we think we're doing help for these children, we're sending them the worst foods in the world that give them disease.
And lots of grains and things as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what cereal
we have to take another quick break here. We'll be back right in about 2 minutes to talk with Dr. Aajonus Vonderplanitz about the health benefits of raw dairy.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
Raw2Radiant.com is the ultimate source of information on raw foods, health, and wellness. Here you will find the latest articles on how both cooked and raw foods affect our well-being. Browse the store to shop for everything you need to transition life-giving raw foods into your current diet and lifestyle. Find books, CDs, juicers, blenders, raw living minerals, raw foods, and amazing skincare products. Make sure to check the calendar of events for Kim's schedule of lectures and workshops. Raw2Radiant. Raw foods to radiant health.
Hey kid, over here, inside your radio. Name's Ralph. I'm an energy hog. Hey, if you're gonna waste energy in your home, I'm gonna pig out on it. Anyway, I got a deal for you. There's this new website called energyhog.org. Forget about it. It teaches kids how to get rid of us energy hogs. So you promise not to log on to energyhog.org, and I promise not to eat your radio. Deal?
A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Hey, how you doing? Educational videos, top quality, right here.
You'll never hear anyone selling education on the street. But with free family learning programs, you can get the education you need. Call 1-877-FAMLIT1 for information on free learning programs. 1-877-FAMLIT1.
Check it out, check it out. Your GED right here, guaranteed, Ma. Come on, check it out.
Free family learning programs from the National Center for Family Literacy. Brought to you by the National Center for Family Literacy and the Ad Council.
Your life, your health, your network. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You're listening to Raw Radio with host Kim Cohen. If you have a question for Kim or her guest, call now. Our toll-free number is 1-866-472-5792. That number again is 1-866-472-5792. Now back to Raw Radio.
Welcome back to Raw to Radiant. I'm your host, Kim Cohen, and today we're talking with Dr. Aajonus Vonderplanitz about the health benefits of raw, unpasteurized dairy. And I know that there's something specific that you wanted to talk about in this next segment. Go right ahead, Aajonus.
Yes, just to help everybody relax about the issue of raw milk. When the health departments decide that raw milk has been a problem with health, they do that by let me give you an example. This was used by the state of California in one law case. A little girl had drowned. Now, they didn't tell everybody the little girl had drowned. They said that the little girl had died of salmonella and poisoning, and that caused her to drown, and she drank raw milk. So that was the conclusion that was given in court. However, under investigation, I found that the little girl drowned. They performed an autopsy, found salmonella in her gut, called the family and asked if the family drank raw milk or ate rare meat. And if you say yes to either of those, the identification of that death or illness is directly related to that question and answer. So if they say yes, the blame goes on either raw meat or raw dairy. It has nothing to do with science, nothing at all. So when I checked on this issue, I found that the little girl didn't like raw milk. She was the only one in the family that didn't drink milk.
It's really interesting.
So
we just don't hear the whole story, do we?
Right. It's a shame. And there's never been one case scientifically found to have been proved that was raw dairy as a matter of illness. However, there have been thousands, I mean hundreds of thousands of cases of people getting sick from pasteurized dairy. One case of a cheese in Arizona it made 197,000 people sick. Now, why didn't the media carry that all over the country? It just carried it in one paper in Arizona for one issue, and that was it, and then it was gone. Now, if that kind of information was given to the people, pasteurized dairy wouldn't be on the market.
Right.
Only raw dairy would be on the market. But see, the food industry doesn't want that. They like long shelf lives, and they don't care about your health.
It's about bottom line numbers and sales.
That's it. And, when you pasteurize a dairy, you damage over half of the calcium, and it can't be absorbed, so they know that it created osteoporosis and other diseases. So what the milk companies do is they get a lot of mined calcium out of the rock, out of the ground, and then shovel that into their milk. Also makes it, when you pasteurize dairy, it turns it blue. So it's not an attractive color. So when they put that calcium in, it also turns the milk white again, so it's more appealing.
Don't they put synthetic vitamins in there as well?
Yes, they do.
Which are basically chemicals.
Yeah. When you take a hydrogenated vegetable oil, which is basically plastic, there's the same molecular structure as plastic. Once you heat and hydrogenate the vegetable oil, and then you irradiate it with radioactivity. You're not irradiating it with sunlight. And that's how they make a vitamin D to put in the milk. So it is a highly toxic compound. And it has nothing to do with vitamin D. But the science and FDA let them get away with it.
Right. And most Americans truly believe they're doing something healthy. And I'll hear from people, oh, well, why buy organic milk? And that doesn't matter. It's the same things are in it. It's just organic. The cows are fed organic grain. So tell me about, many people, because of this pasteurization process, and it destroys so many enzymes, especially digestive enzymes, everybody thinks they're lactose intolerant because there are no digestive enzymes left in the dairy to be able to digest it appropriately.
Well, the whole picture is a little bit worse than that. People have been eating cooked and processed foods and fast foods like McDonald's, Jack in the Box, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is basically very processed, industrialized food that's processed to the point of giving it the longest shelf life of even up to 6 months to a year in a can. So they're putting MSG, aspartame, some very dangerous chemicals in that. And people eating that way, and cereals and all of those foods are processed that way today. So people's own digestive enzyme ability to leach it from their own bodies and to have any kind of a storage is extremely depleted. So if they don't get it in their food, they won't get it at all. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can get enzymes to help the digestion of that food is in the food itself, unpasteurized and completely raw.
So can everyone drink raw milk?
Well, I've still found about, let's say, 2 out of 100 people who were lactose intolerant or casein intolerant. Casein is a protein that a lot of people are allergic to when it builds up when it's cooked. Mm-hmm. So they have allergy to casein more often and lactate in pasteurized dairy. But in raw dairy, it isn't the same molecular structure. It's not cauterized. It's not fused together to cause it to be indigestible.
Right.
And pass into the gut undigested, into the blood undigested.
And I've even found that some people, when they first introduce the raw dairy, have to even start it slowly.
Yes, because some of those people, and like I said, only 2% that I've met, still show symptoms of an allergy to dairy. But what I've discovered is it's not the fresh dairy, the raw dairy that's causing the problem. It's the body's storage of those old lactic acids and sugars, lactate and casein, and when they get the raw, they start detoxifying it. Mm-hmm. So it creates the symptoms. But like I said in my book, We Want to Live, that if they drink 4 ounces a day every hour, every day, not every hour, every day, once a day, that over a 3-month period they will no longer have that allergy.
Would you say small amounts throughout the day? A total of 4 ounces?
No, 4 ounces total at one time is fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I experienced that myself. When my daughter was born, she had severe allergies to dairy, so I thought, until I found you and really found out the truth about raw dairy. And it did take a couple months to transition her. But I can tell you right now that my 7-year-old and I drink 3 gallons of raw dairy a week. We drink a quart of raw cream. We go through probably 2 pounds of cheese, a couple pounds of butter, all raw.
And I do that all on my own.
Exactly. Well, we're
it takes 2 of you. It takes 1 of me.
She's little, so.
Yes, that's true.
Right, and I can tell you also that, 2 winters ago, she was in kindergarten class 2 winters ago, and there were 2 kindergartner classes, each with 20 kids. Every one of those 40 children were out sick for 2 to 3 weeks, except my daughter. And I know that even when she does eat a little cooked food, when she's with other people or at birthday parties, I know it's the dairy and the honey. I figure if we can at least get the dairy and the honey in her, that makes such a big difference. And, she was the only one not out sick.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable what happens.
It really is. So, all of these people that do think that they have food allergies and intolerances are doing things like soy milk and rice milk and almond milk. Can you talk a little bit about how...
soy and any kind of grain is really not for the human body. That's for herbivores and birds. Herbivores have a digestive tract 2.5 times longer than ours. They have 60,000 times more enzymes to disassemble the cellulose molecule. And it takes 48 hours for food to pass through their systems, and it only goes through us in 24 hours. We have one stomach. They have 2 to 4. So they can digest grains and beans properly. We don't, and plus we can't even handle the phytic acid that's in them, so they have to be cooked and processed for us to get anything out of them. And then, of course, the cooking causes certain kinds of toxins to form, and then our bodies have to deal with that, along with all the missing vitamins and enzymes and everything else that was present in the raw food. But like they say, grains are for the birds and the cows. Mm-hmm. They aren't for us. And soy is one of the worst substances there is because it will kill birds and humans if eaten raw. So they have to process it with a benzene-like substance, which is basically kerosene, and heat process it. And then the IgG that is very high, which is a precursor to certain brain hormones. It's been shown to in laboratory animals to incite brain tumors. So soy is one of the worst things that we have out there, but because it's the easiest product, you can poison the field, and a vine will be so ill it won't grow any leaves, but it'll still produce a bean. So it's a great marketing product.
And that's one of the most popular things that they're feeding everything now, from cattle to chickens. I mean, all of our eggs. The hens have eaten soy, and
it has to be processed.
Neurotoxin, isn't it?
It creates a lot of toxins.
What about raw soy? Can you eat raw soy?
No, like I said, there's no way a human can eat it without killing itself, not even germinated.
Okay.
Cows can, but then it makes the meat taste like cardboard. So it's not appetizing, but boy, it's certainly easy to grow, and it's certainly a cash crop. So everybody's using it.
This whole raw food movement, 99% of raw people out there are vegans, and that's what they're eating.
Yeah,
grains, raw sprouted grains, and raw nuts.
Well, over 50% of my cancer patients are long-term vegetarians. Even Linda McCartney, the wife of Paul McCartney, who was a vegetarian, vowed for 30 years that she would never get cancer because she was a vegetarian. And, she died of very aggressive breast cancer.
Great. And isn't it true that the Dalai Lama had to start eating meat at some point?
Yes, he got very sick about 4 years ago, and one of my patients is a good friend of his who eats the diet, and he told, basically the Dalai Lama saw him and saw the difference, and what my friend said to him, or Fred Siegel said, he said, listen, I'm eating this raw meat, and that's changed my whole life, raw meat and raw dairy. You should begin eating it. So he began eating meat. So the Dalai Lama eats meat as a medicine.
Well, we're going to take our last break right now, and when we come back, we're going to continue talking with Dr. Vonderplanitz about what we can do. Let's talk about the government regulations, what's happening out there, how we're losing control, and how we can regain that control back. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Opinions, options, answers. Voice America Health and Wellness.
Marissa, are you ready yet? I know you can hear me. You are not missing school again. Marissa! You trying to be a nobody or something? Let's go! Alright then. Hit it. I know you can hear this. Hey guys, move closer. That's it. Girl, I am not leaving.
Hey, whatever it takes, don't let your friends drop out. A real friend can make all the difference.
Cut that noise, yo! I'm coming! Took you long enough. Thanks for the help, guys.
For more ways to help, go to OperationGraduation.com. A public service message from the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
RawToRadiant.com is the ultimate source of information on raw foods, health, and wellness. Here you will find the latest articles on how both cooked and raw foods affect our well-being. Browse the store to shop for everything you need to transition life-giving raw foods into your current diet and lifestyle. Find books, CDs, juicers, blenders, raw living minerals, raw foods, and amazing skincare products. Make sure to check the calendar of events for Kim's schedule of lectures and workshops. Raw to Radiant. Raw foods to radiant health.
Your life, your health, your network. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
You're listening to Raw to Radiant with host Kim Cohen. If you have a question for Kim or her guest, call now. Our toll-free number is 1-866-472-5792. That number again is 1-866-472-5792. Now back to Raw to Radiant.
Welcome back. I'm Kim Cohen, and today we're talking with Dr. Aajonus Vonderplanitz about the health benefits of raw unpasteurized dairy. Aajonus, I know you want to touch on a couple of things real quickly here.
Well, I just wanted to say the value of raw dairy is so important, in fact, especially in our toxic industrialized society that's so full of pollution in the food, in the water, in the air, and everything, that the dairy, when it's broken up into its different pieces and its different parts, has so many values healthfully. Like cheese can draw poisons out of the blood, the neurological system, and the lymph as it travels through the digestive tract, and that will free up any minerals and vitamins and nutrients and proteins and fats in the food, so the cells can get well and fed well enough. Dairy is very important, as far as raw cream. It's the only thing that I found that completely relaxes the nervous system, the human brain and nervous system. And I noticed that there's a lot of people who have gone on my diet, the primal diet, and have been told that raw dairy is a problem. So they believe this nonsense and then stop drinking the dairy. In those people, I noticed that they're a lot more irritable. They lose a tremendous amount of weight, and they're a lot less happy
when they're not doing the dairy.
And yet they have this vehemence about them, like vegetarians do, that they're doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't come from a calm, relaxed place, nor an intelligent place. It comes from a body anxiety, irritation to the system. So dairy is so important in our society especially.
And it doesn't matter what kind. It can be cow, goat, sheep, yak, camel.
Well, it depends. No, if a person is thin and hyperactive, they don't want goat's milk. It's better cow's milk. If somebody's very fat, overweight, or has diabetes, then goat's milk is preferable.
Because goat's milk has less fat.
Well, it has hormone precursors for adrenaline, and it makes somebody more hyperactive, so it'll give them more energy. Gives diabetics more energy, both physical and mental, and overweight people. But most people need to be calmed in our society with all this coffee and pollution.
We need to really let go of the fear of fat, don't we? Because
fat is so important. Without fat,
we're in a toxic culture, so we need it.
Without fat, the poisons go into your cells and damage your RNA and DNA, and there's disease. Our health industry is upside down. Why? Because I think it is, and it's proved by what they say, that the pharmaceutical industry is bent on making customers. So they want anything that is derogatory to health to be believed. So fat-free diets. Yale or Harvard, I forgot who it was, about 5 years ago, came up after 10 years of studying and found, the fat-free diet is a dangerous thing. We've had more disease by studying it, so everybody eat more fat. And boy, that did not get much press when it came out.
Well, I just want to get this in before the end of the show. We do have a couple callers that are on the line right now, but, this is so important because our government is taking control, and we don't have control anymore. And the state of California is the only state that I know of that I can actually walk in and buy Organic Pastures raw dairy right off the shelf.
Yep.
And it's wonderful whenever I go there, thanks to you, Aajonus. And so what can we do? How can we make this legal in every state? We all need this.
Well, what you have to do is a lot of people in the state need to, and if they just want a local region, they have to go to their county health department and get a law passed in their board of supervisors. If they want it on a state level, they have to go to their representatives in their Senate and get a law passed. I'm going to attempt to open people's minds in Washington, D.C., and get them to change it and make a law different, just like I did in Los Angeles and subsequently California. So I will be going there on the 15th of June and staying there till July 31st, lobbying, and there are several people going with me, so we hope to educate every House of Representative and Senator in that month and a half stay in Washington, D.C., and see if we can't get them, encourage one of them to write a bill and to get enough supporters behind it. Then I'm going to need everybody who's a listener, if they will, to write their senators to fax them. Fax is always the best. If you want to make a noise with a representative, you fax them. It makes a hard copy that they have to pay for. When you get an email, all they have to do is hit a delete button and that's it. When they get a call, all they have to do is throw away the log. When they get a sheet of paper or several sheets of paper, a letter coming through their fax machine, they have to shred it, they have to do all kinds of things, so it makes noise. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons that I was very effectual in getting the Board of Supervisors to listen, is because I had 1,500 people who faxed them over that week prior to the vote, and it shut their offices down.
So we're going to try to get a list of those fax numbers on both rawmilk.org and on my website, rawtoradiant.com, under the Raw Milk tab.
Right.
That'll be up in about 2 days, by Thursday. I urge everybody, please, everyone that is listening, please, this is the only way that we can make a difference. Have everyone that you know fax in a letter to your government official. And again, we'll have that on in about 2 days. If you want to know when we do have it up and ready, go to rawtoradiant.com. Type in your email address on the free newsletter page, and I will email everybody when it's ready to go as a reminder. This is very important.
And there's a lot more information about raw milk on rawmilk.org. That's not rawmilk.com. That's rawmilk.org. And you can see the processes that I went through in the letters and the issues and the legal document, the executive order that I had to write. The executive summary that I had to write to get them to legally wake up to what they were doing. And the law was completely passed on the grounds that it was good. And they when they voted in favor of the law that we could sell raw milk, regular raw milk without certification, on the same standards as any pasteurized milk, when that law was passed, they also passed a memorandum that said, we will watch this issue, and if any epidemics or any cases come up, we will have to review this law a year later, and there wasn't one case. And over, somewhere around 100 million gallons of milk was sold that year.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, this is very important work that you're doing, and we need, as I said, we need every single person to do this. We have 1 minute to go before the show closes. I'm sorry to our callers that we couldn't take them. I wish we could have gotten them on. It's gone by so quickly, and there's so much information to put out there. Aajonus, is there anything that you want to say to close up the show here?
Yeah, just again, raw dairy is so important for so many people. There are some people who can't tolerate it easily because they've got a lot of toxins. It's usually people who are very hyperactive and have been thin for a very long time. The dairy is still something that they should be eating, but they may have some difficulties, and they have to be careful about how they eat it, and they should drink it never cold because that shrinks the stomach, then the digestive juices don't mix with the milk, and then it moves into the duodenum undigested and then gets into the blood. So people like that, it may make them irritable. It could give them kidney complications, and if they'll just eat it wisely and be very careful with it, it can be so beneficial.
Yeah.
But there still is that small percentage that can eat it, but it's a tiny percentage.
Right. Well, Dr. Vonderplanitz conducts lectures all over the country and all over the world for that matter. And if anybody would like to know when he's coming to your area, because he is traveling nonstop, send me an email at kim@raw2radiant.com. kim@raw2radiant.com. Put the word schedule in the title bar, and I'll send everyone a schedule of where he's traveling around the country.
Also, my books are available at WeWantToLive.com. That is the numeral 2, WeWant2live.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vonderplanitz, for joining us today. And
thank you,
don't
Kim.
miss our show next week. We're going to have Deborah Dodd, and Deborah's the best-selling author of Home Safe Home. And it's really the ultimate reference book in eliminating toxins from the home. And she has over 400 tips, including do-it-yourself formulas for inexpensive, safe products to replace all the toxic, harmful chemicals in our home. Thank you again, and we hope to have you on another show.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Raw to Radiant. If you would like to learn more about Kim or healthy living with raw foods, visit Kim's website at